everybody. Welcome. It is my pleasure as Professor Fisher to welcome Toyosi to her defense and to welcome all of you to this momentous moment. For those of you that have worked with Toyosi and have known Toyosi as I have over the last 18 months, you know that she's a go-getter, that she works incredibly hard, that she's tenacious, and the fact that we're here for her defense before spring break is a testament to that work that you've put in. So she's been working very hard on this research for the last 7 months, and we're really looking forward to seeing the results. The committee has seen a draft of the results, and we have some questions for you at the end. The way that this will operate is Toyosi will give her talk, then the committee will ask questions, and the audience will have the chance to ask questions. At that point, we will dismiss the audience, the committee will then deliberate, and then we will let Toyosi know the results of the defense. Okay. All right. And with that said, Toyosi, we're good here?
Yes.
Okay. Committee?
Okay. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for being here. I appreciate that. My name is Toyosi Ogunsola, and I am going to be defending my thesis titled Beyond Likes: How Personality Traits Predict Saving Behavior on Instagram. I'm going to be taking us through the problem my research is trying to solve, the terms used in this research, and my hypothesis, the results, the discussions, and the implications of this study. Now, to start off with the problem, studies have shown that there's a relationship that exists between personality traits and the use of social media in terms of adoption and engagement. However, there is a gap that remains in how personality traits affect the use or predict the use of certain social media features. In this case, it is collections on Instagram. Now, to understand what collections are, we need to talk about broadly digital archiving or saving. Digital archiving or saving refers to all of the different processes on the internet where we are able to save posts, save things that interest us, to refer to them at a later time. And this takes different formats. There are bookmarks in our browsers and favorites in our photo albums. Now, on social media, Instagram specifically, there are saved posts. So on Instagram, when you see a post that you like or that you want to show somebody at a later time, you're able to save that particular post and refer to it as at a later time. Now, you do not just save them anyhow. Instagram allows you to save them in folders, specific folders, where a group of social media posts are tagged based on what they refer to or a specific name that you want to give them. And these specific folders are what are referred to as collections. Now, these collections take different forms. There are collaborative collections where you can share a collection, which is a group of posts with your friends and give them a distinct name. Or a recent update on Instagram allows you to put that collection on your profile and have your friends, your followers check that at a later time. To understand how this collection affects personality traits, we need to first understand what personality traits are. There are different ways that researchers have tried to understand the human condition. Why do we think the way we think? Why do we act the way we act? And they've tried different ways or different methods to understand that. But one of the ways that they have tried to explain it is personality traits. Now, personality traits predict how we go about life. Research has shown that our personality can predict the way we act and the way we do certain things. For example, more conscientious, more agreeable, and more emotionally stable individuals have been found to maintain relationships, go on to move in with their partners, and even get married. On the contrary, less conscientious, less agreeable individuals and less emotionally stable individuals are found to struggle with making all of those transitions in getting married, moving in with a partner, and maintaining a relationship. But it is not just limited to relationships alone. Conscientiousness has been shown to rival intelligence in predicting academic performance. Now, when a person graduates, when a person gets married or gets engaged, we see this post on social media. I said yes, 1 degree hotter, and then all of these posts sort of bring our personality traits into social media because an extroverted high achiever is probably one to tell the whole world that they graduated. And this tells us, our personality traits then predict what we post on social media. But even beyond that, our personality traits predict whether we engage with posts and definitely just all of the social interactions that are happening on the internet. Our personality traits has been shown to show a relationship between that. Now, there are different, if I go around the room and ask everyone what you think your dominant personality trait is, you'd probably say something different from the next person. There are different types or groups of this personality profiles. There's the big five, there's the neo personality inventory, there's the Exaco. But for this study, we have used the five factor model, which is the most widely accepted of these personality profiles. The five factor model has five different personality profiles: extroversion, conscientiousness, extroversion, openness to experience, neuroticism, and agreeableness. Now, we'll start off with extroversion. Extroversion is the personality trait that accounts for being sociable. You're outgoing, you have an energetic approach to life, and you're happy most of the times. Openness to experience, just like the name, open to experience. You are adventurous, you are curious, and you pursue activities. Now, extroversion has, or extroverts have a specific way that they behave on social media, according to research. Extroverts are found to be likely to use social media. They prefer pictures with others as their profile pictures, showing at least one positive emotion, and they post more selfies with their friends. I think a good example of this would be Red Note. Considering this research, where extroverts are likely to use social media, we could sort of say that Red Note, when Red Note was introduced, many of the first responders who got on the app are extroverts. Openness to experience, they usually don't have photos of other people on their profile pictures. They show themselves as they are. I mean, and if you're bungee jumping, jumping out of a plane, you're skydiving all the time, you probably want to show that off, right? So that just makes perfect sense. Conscientiousness, the third trait, is the personality traits that account for being orderly. You have a schedule, you stick to it, you prioritize tasks, and you are very organized. Now, this personality trait has been found that they are likely to use social media. However, they tend to use social media in more isolative ways than extroverts and individuals who are open to experience. The fourth trait, neuroticism or agreeableness. Now, agreeableness is the personality trait that accounts for being empathetic, you're altruistic, you're trusting, you're compassionate. And this personality trait has been found to have a decreased social isolation. I mean, if you're a very friendly individual, you don't go on social media and just keep to yourself. You interact with your friends. Now, the last trait, neuroticism, is related to emotional stability. Individuals who are high in this personality trait struggle with emotional regulation. They have increased social isolation. They keep to themselves most times on social media, and they usually don't have photos of other people on their profile pictures. Now, to understand how this personality traits predict collection usage, we also have to understand the value that they put on collection, and that introduces the theory of the consumption value. For this consumption value, we have used Chet consumption value theory. And to explain it, I would like to draw our attention to a particular feature on Instagram, which is the nickname feature. So Instagram allows you to change the handles of your friends. So if you have a friend who, and I know we all have somebody in our life who has a very interesting Instagram handle. For example, I'm going to use Red Bottle. So if you have a friend whose Instagram handle is Red Bottle, you probably will struggle with remembering Red Bottle if you need to search out their profile. So Instagram allows you to change that name to something that is easier for you to remember. Now that we understand what that feature is, I'm going to be explaining them. So I've told you about this feature now, and then when you get home, you're probably going to go to Instagram and check, does this exactly work how she said it works? Now, that would be the epistemic value, and that is the value that gets from the curiosity or trying new things. You just want to know, does this actually work the way it's supposed to work? Now, for convenience value, instead of struggling to remember red neck or red bottle, you're struggling. Is it orange? Is it pink? Is it gray? I mean, but you remember your nickname, the nickname that you've called this individual for a long time. So it's easier for you to remember that. That would be the convenience value. It's easier for you to use that feature than remember red bottle. For emotional value, if you've known this friend for say 25 years and you've always called them that nickname is sentimental. So using that nickname for them on Instagram gives you that emotional value. For functional value is the ability of an item or product service to be useful. Now it's useful for you because you no longer have to remember red bottle. You can just search out the nickname of your friend. And for utilitarian value is the value we derive from achieving a particular consequence or a particular outcome. So say you just want to piss off this friend. So that friend hates being called that nickname, and you use that nickname just to piss off that individual. That would be the utilitarian value. For hedonic value is the fun or playfulness that we derive from using a particular product or service. So just the fun or playfulness of somebody annoys you, your best friend annoys you, and then you just change their nickname to no longer my best friend. Now that is fun, that is playful, and that would be the hedonic value. Now that we understand all of these terms, in this study, the usage of collections was grouped into three large profiles. So there's low, average, and high usage. I already explained that collections are the folders that we have our saved posts grouped in on Instagram. So for low usage, we'd have 1 to 5 collections. Average usage is 8 to 17. And if you have anywhere between 18 to above 22 collections, you are in high usage of collections. Now that we understand this, I would rephrase the problem again. So now, for the problem, we are taking all of these traits, so the personality traits that we mentioned, and all of the consumption value theories. They have been identified to predict a certain usage of social media. So maybe a person who is in extroversion is likely to engage on social media, but we do not know their relationship with specific features like the collection usage. So if collection usage is a feature on Instagram, but we do not know how this personality traits and in relationship with these values tend to predict how they use the collection. So this is what my study is trying to answer. Now, the hypothesis of this study, I have 9 different hypotheses to start us with. Extroversion will be negatively associated with the use of collections on Instagram. Extroversion is a trait that is sociable, and since they like social engagement on social media, it was predicted that they would not use collections frequently. Openness to experience will be negatively associated with the use of collections on Instagram. Conscientiousness, which is the traits that predict being organized, will be positively associated with the usage of collections. Neuroticism will be positively associated with the use of collections. Agreeableness, which is a trait that explains being sociable, being empathetic, will be positively associated with the use of collections on Instagram. For convenience value, which is the value of the ease of using a particular product or service, we believe that it would be positively associated with the use of collections. Utilitarian value, the value associated with an item being able to achieve a particular consequence or outcome that we have in mind. Functional value, the value for an item being useful, will be positively associated with the use of collections. And finally, hedonic value, the value associated with the fun or playfulness, would be positively associated with the use of collections. Now, the method that we have used in this study used an online survey that took about 30 to 35 minutes. Thank you to everybody who took the survey. 30 to 35 minutes to fill. And it had about 4 different sections. There was the consent form, we had a screener, demographic information, there was a personality test on the consumption values, and questions that analyzed saving behavior, checking, saving, and organizing habits. There were 6 screening questions and 6 demographic questions. The personality test, which is the IP note, had 50 items. The consumption values had 4 questions for each consumption value. The checking behavior, saving, and organizing behavior had 4 questions each. Now, the participants, we had Instagram users within the age of 18 to 64 who have used Instagram for at least 6 months and have at least 1 safe post, were the ones who took this survey. Now, for the data analysis, SPSS version 29 was used to analyze this data. Descriptive statistics was used for the demographic information. The mean and standard deviation was used to compute the results of the personality test. Correlation analysis was used to test for the relationship between all the variables and the collection usage. And a regression analysis was used to test the hypothesis. Now to the results of the study. What exactly did we find? First, the correlation analysis showed that functional value, convenience value, hedonic value, emotional value, epistemic, and utilitarian value show a positive correlation with collection usage. We also found that checking habits, which is after you save post, do you go back to check, like, is this actually useful for you, or do you reference it from time to time? And we found that individuals who averagely use collections were the most likely to go back to check their collections. The average collection usage in this study was defined between 8 to 17 collections. Now, we also found that collaborative collections, which are collections that you share with your friends, were more used by high collection users and low collection users. And that makes sense because if you frequently use collections and you want to introduce your friend to it, you probably will start with a collaborative collection. Now, for the hypotheses that were tested, the first hypothesis showed a predicted a negative association between extroversion and collection usage, and this was supported, meaning that that extroverts do not frequently use collections. The second hypothesis showed a negative predicted a negative association between openness to experience and collection usage, and this also was not supported, meaning that highly open to experience individuals who engage on social media do not use collections. A positive association was predicted between neuroticism and collection usage. This also was not supported. For the fourth hypothesis, a positive relationship between conscientiousness and collection usage was predicted, and this was supported, meaning that individuals who are organized in their daily life are also organized on social media. The fifth hypothesis predicted the relationship between agreeableness and collection usage, and this was not supported. There was a positive relationship predicted between convenience value and collection usage, and this was supported, meaning that individuals who consider collections to be easy to use tend to use collections. A positive association was predicted between utilitarian value and collection usage, meaning that when you have a specific outcome or a goal you're trying to achieve, and that makes you like search posts on Instagram, say you're looking for posts on sports, you are likely to save posts if you have that intended outcome in mind. A positive association was predicted between functional value and collection usage, and this also was supported. A positive association was predicted between hedonic value and collection usage. However, this was not supported. That would mean that if you are on Instagram for a fun time or you're playing on social media, you probably would not be engaging with collections. You'd probably be on stories. Now, let's discuss this result. We start off with extroversion, and we predicted a positive relationship between a negative relationship between extroversion and the usage of collections, and that was supported. That would mean that extroverts are likely to engage visibly on social media. They would share posts, they would like posts, they would comment. They use research has shown that extroverts use Instagram for social interaction. That is the goal. So things that allow for private curation or things that take them away from the engagement and not where extroverts are on social media, and that explains why they do not use collections frequently. For openness to experience, which is also similar to extroversion, they also engage with social media visibly. Extra openness to experience predicts wanting to engage more with social media in ways that are visible. For neuroticism, neuroticism was found to have a negative correlation with collection usage, meaning that as you rise higher in the ranks of neuroticism, you are likely to not use collection. This means, I mean, in some sort of way that because it was also low in convenience value, highly neurotic individuals on social media, research has shown that they tend to use features that are easy to use. So they do not consider collections to be easy to use, and as such, they do not use collections. For agreeable individuals are also on social media for social interaction, and they tend to want to interact visibly with their friends. Although this trait also accounts for some sort of isolative use of social media. However, the priority is on social interaction, and this explains why they do not use social media. They do not use collections on Instagram. For functional value predicts the usefulness of an item. Collections are useful in that when you need a post that you need to reference quickly, you probably would go to your collection. So many people who use collections consider them to be useful to them. For hedonic value, this hypothesis that predicted a positive association between hedonic value and collection usage was not supported. This would mean that individuals who are on Instagram for fun things do not use collection usage. They are on stories, they are on reels, they are checking posts, they are engaging, but definitely not piling things in their collections. For convenience value, convenience value is positively associated. Previous studies have shown that it is positively associated with information seeking behaviors and the process of retrieval. Now, many individuals do not consider they do not consider the collections process of sorting their saved posts and retrieving them to be easy, and that is why they do not use collections. For utilitarian value, which is the value associated with achieving a particular outcome. Now, utilitarian value was positively correlated with, or there was an association between utilitarian value and the usage of collections. Now, the implication of this study, like why does this information even matter? Now, This study has brought to light that collections have to be intuitive and practically useful. The particular result of convenience value having a low correlation with collection usage just tells us that many individuals do not consider collections to be convenient to use or to retrieve information from. And to help, it would help if collections have some sort of filtering or sorting option that allows you to easily access the post or easily retrieve them. It would also help if they are auto tagging, where you can easily categorize your saved post. The way it works on Instagram right now is you save a post in your collection and then you have to go in there to reorder the post. Many people would not consider that to be convenient. I have like a design where I found somebody who had tried to redesign the Instagram profile for convenience, has put the bookmark feature right on the profile or like the collection feature. So you can just search that. Like you can go there and just see your save post rather than having to go into your settings, save post, the entire process that it takes to retrieve your save post. Additionally, it's also recommended that if users can pin, now since we found that utilitarian value is has a positive correlation with the usage of collections, that means many individuals who use collections have an intended outcome in mind. So if you have collections basically because you are interested in sports, if you can pin your sports collection at the top of your profile, it probably helps you to get access to it faster than you normally would. Additionally, the checking behavior had just a positive correlation with average users, meaning people who have low collection usage, that's 1 to 5 collections, and individuals who have above 17 collections struggle with checking their posts. So if they get reminders from time to time to go back in and check their collections, that might help. Individuals who have above 17 collections would struggle with scrolling through. So if there was a search icon that allows you to just search your collections, that would help. Now, the major implication of this study would be that saving behavior should not be treated as universal across all personal types, um, considering that each personality type interacts with collections in different ways. So, collections have to be tailored to each or have to be designed in specific ways to tailor to each of these personality profiles. For extroverted and open to experience personas, it would help if there are publicly available collections. Now, this is a new update. My study had started before this update was introduced, and I believe that it is a positive leap for individuals who are extroverted and open to experience to interact with collections better. Collaborative collections, right now, you can only share collaborative collection with your friend. So if you have a group of friends who, for example, you're planning a trip and you're looking at fun things to do in Paris, for example, you probably want to have a collaborative collection where everybody can see the fun things to do. Now, this feature is currently not available, and that would impede people from using collections. So, since extroverts and open to experience individuals are likely to visibly engage on social media. They want things that they can share with their friends. So having collaborative collections that you can share with multiple users will definitely help that. Extroverts and open to experience individuals are likely to engage on social media. So through their engagement, if they can save posts directly from the engagement, that would definitely help. Trending on suggested collections, since these personas have been said to be chronically online, and just for the sake of social proof, if they can see that other people are relating with a particular collection, it might encourage them to want to use them. Now, for agreeable personas, since this persona juggles between being engaging on social media and also having private social interaction, if they can toggle between collaborative collections and personal collections, that allows you to probably share a collection just for a limited time, and then you can toggle it back to being a private collection. That would help them to use collections better. For neurotic personas who struggle with using social media features that seem to not be easy, if there are auto-suggested categories, so when you save a post, Instagram automatically suggests that this is where this post should go as a collection, rather than having you go back into the pile and sort for the actual post. It would also help if there is an auto-tagging where post automatically sort. So when you save, if you've saved multiple posts into your sports collection, for example, when you try to save a post, it automatically suggests to save in the sports collection. For conscientious individuals who seem to be the major target group for collections, they tend to fall within the high usage of collection group, which means they have collections above 17. So 17, above 22, they have collections in large numbers. So if they have a search icon where they can easily search for a collection, that increases the convenience value with their usage of collection. More organization now features like sub collections. So within a collection, you can group other posts there. So if you're interested in sports and there's a sports collection, right now everything in there just sits in that pile. However, if there are other ways to subgroup posts there where you can have badminton, you can have tennis, you can have basketball within the sports collection, I think it would definitely help their usage of collections. They also need reminders to revisit collections, considering that their checking habits is a little low. Now, for the limitations of this study used just 52 participants, and that's a small sample size, and it limits the generalizability of the findings. Additionally, this study was done just for Instagram, and their collections or the bookmark feature on other social media platforms. So the result of this study can only be applied to Instagram and not other social media platforms. Correlation analysis identifies relationship and causation. So while we have been able to say, oh, there is an association between certain personality traits and the usage of collections, we cannot say that this is why that relationship exists. Now, for future research, I would suggest that larger and more diverse sizes are used for the research to get more results that are more general. If we could also incorporate experimental and longitudinal designs to establish causation, that would also help. Finally, to close this off, I would like to leave us with a question, since there are many designers in the room. It's just one feature, it's just collections, but we've seen that our personalities and values shape how we use them differently. So, going forward, how do we design for individuality in a world of standardized features? Thank you for listening. I'll take questions now.
All right, thank you, Toyosi. I have some questions, but I'll go to the committee first.
Okay, I'll get the ball rolling. Big picture, I really like the research. I really like using personality traits in a really granular way to look at online behavior, right? And that's your hook, and that's great. It's truly a gap there. And so I really like that. I really liked at the end when we're sort of sketching out implications, design recommendations, right? So that's really great. I do have some specific things, but I wanted to start with that, and then I had sort of some, I guess, questions to sort of probe your thinking about this. So, for example, um, some of your predictions and findings make perfect sense. So, conscientiousness, right, desire for order, positively predicts saving behavior. That makes perfect sense. You found that. On the other hand, I don't understand the prediction for extroversion, where you're predicting a negative relationship. And can you talk about that a little bit?
Okay, so for extroversion, previous research has suggested that extroverts tend to visibly engage on social media. So they use social media primarily for social interactions. So they want to engage with their friends. They want things that they can talk about with their friends, their families, their followers. They want to pull their followers along in their interactions. As opposed to traits like conscientiousness, where there is an isolative use of social media, they're using social media primarily for themselves. They really do not care what their followers are up to. They are there for themselves. So since extroverts like to engage visibly, collections are more private. You can't exactly share them with your friends. It was just a new update where you can put them on your profile and now share them with your friends, but this wasn't the case before. So since they visibly engage on social media, features like collections that are more private are things that they probably will not lean to using.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, yeah.
To clarify, was it December that was just released,
Yes.
right? That feature?
Yes.
Because that's also the question I have. Because I saw the feature, I thought it's already incorporated in the Instagram. You can share your collection with others. So
Yeah.
right now, so this is a new.
It's a very new update. Yeah.
And I think it's important to say too that it's the only real update.
Yeah.
In recent years.
Yeah.
John, you around Rob here?
Oh yeah, so kind of like you have a lot of assumptions, right? Some of those assumptions supported, some of them not. Among those who are not supported, which one surprised you most?
Yeah, I think for me it was convenience value. I use collections and I find them to be very easy. Matter of fact, my research questions spurred from a conversation I had with a friend. He had seen a very interesting post over the weekend and he had thought, oh, Toyosi is going to like this. And he wanted to show it to me. And he spent like 30 minutes diligently looking for this post. And I couldn't understand, like, why didn't you just save this post to a collection? And it would have been easy for you to just retrieve it. So I felt like collections are very easy to use. I felt that way. So I was surprised to see that many users do not attribute convenience to collections. But I think now that I have studied it, it makes some sort of sense that when you save your post in a collections, they're in a giant pile, like it's in one folder. Then you have to go back in and group them into specific folders that you want them grouped into. I understand how that can be a little inconvenient, but I was surprised by that.
Very great insight for designers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they assume it's gonna be very easy.
During this project, I became very aware of why I'm not and then my question actually relates to that. So, it's in the thesis, but it's not necessarily here in the presentation. For the audience, can you talk a little bit about the different kinds of filers and the different kinds of engagement in organization and how you saw that kind of represent your data?
Yeah, so there was a specific study that I found on bookmarking. So it was generally how people bookmark on the internet. It wasn't a study for social media, but since it relates to bookmarking or digital archiving, I was able to apply it to this study. And I was able to group filers into no filers, sporadic filers, and then also like group based on how the timing for your filing. So some people file their bookmarks. Some people do not file their bookmarks. There are sporadic filers who go a long time without filing their bookmarks, and then suddenly they remember, oh, this is a giant file, I'm just going to file it right now. And they have like the different differences within that. So and that was for the checking, the organizing behavior. I also was able to group them into the timing for your filing. So there are people who, after each session on Instagram, for example, they would group all, like, so you've added new posts to your collections, then you go back in and make sure that they are in the proper folders. Or there are some people who, like the sporadic filers, wake up one day and maybe they go there to check for a particular post and they find it difficult to find it. So they're like, okay, I'm just going to file them differently. So I was able to apply this previous study to my study. And although that study was for bookmarks, it also does apply to like the general archiving behavior.
One more general question, then I have a couple more specific questions. Uh, so you chose personality traits, five-factor model, which is appropriate. That is the main model, and the values, that seems appropriate as well. This is not. I'm just curious if you thought about, and you don't have a big enough sample to do this, but whether traits and values might interact in certain ways. For example, because in the personality literature, there's oftentimes research showing that motives interact with traits, and motives sort of similar to values, right? So, for example, people who are really, really extroverted, utilitarian values may not make any difference, but people who are very, very low on extroverted, very introverted, it may make a difference in their views. So that I'm just wondering if you thought about that sort of more complex way of looking at these dimensions and how they might impact. And I know you can't analyze that because you don't have the sample, but I was just curious if that's something you thought about at all.
Well, yeah. And that's because when I ran the correlation, the table has like, you can see all like the relationships. So you're curious about like certain things. And it also helps that previous literature has like some link. For example, when I was trying to understand why highly neurotic individuals do not use collections, I was able to understand that it's because the features that they use on social media have to have some level of convenience value. So when you think of that they use convenient features, collections do not seem convenient to them, so they do not use. So I can see that there are definitely ways that those values affect how those traits use them. But for the research, I definitely did not analyze in depth.
No, it occurred to me as I was reading this,
Yeah.
how they might interact.
Yeah.
So, one question, kind of like, I'm interested in the demographics of the participants. Are they college students or?
well, yeah, there was a good number of college students. The sample size was between ages of 18 to 64. So within the ages of say 18 to 25, there were many college students, but many of the individuals between the bracket of 835 to 64 were they weren't. Yeah.
The reason I'm asking this because I'm thinking, maybe for freshman, senior may have, different motives, motivations for the
Yeah.
use of collections.
Mhm.
Where if you're a senior, this means that you want a better job. Probably, you may want to collect more like books of functional or
Yeah.
utilitarian.
Yes.
You want to use that as a way to collect something that is useful for you rather than maybe support or freshman just for entertaining work. I'm not sure. I'm just trying to guess.
I think that that's a very beautiful point, and I think it also aligns with Dr. Holgrave's suggestion. Talking about how personality traits across particular age levels would also interact with values differently, as opposed to personality traits of older individuals. I think like there's an interesting relationship there, something for future research.
This is so interesting.
Yes.
Topic, keep diving into.
I agree.
And certainly across different platforms too.
Yes.
The way that I save stuff on LinkedIn is very different than what I save on other social media sites. To go off of what Dr. Kilgrave was saying and what Tom was saying, as we've been having this discussion, I've been like, so I'm wondering, we can't say this in great detail based on the data that you have, but when we think about usability, are there some personality traits that just find collections not usable? That they would fill out the system usability scale and they would say, no, I would know.
So I think I would say extroverts and individuals open to experience. And I say that carefully because I do not have data to back that up. But when we look at how they behave on social media, they want to interact. As opposed to just saving posts, there are other ways that you can reference posts. And I had this in my survey where I asked people, if you do not save posts, how do you find posts that you want to see again? And there are options like liking a post. Instagram has a specific part where you can go to see all the posts that you have liked, all the posts that you've left a comment on. So those are ways that you can also reference. Now, if they are on social media basically for social interaction, they most likely would still use that, although there is collaborative collections, just because of the interaction, the ongoing interaction. You don't want to go back, like you see this post right now and you just want to share with your friend and like this, I like this, let's keep this for later. So the fact that you can have that ongoing conversation on that post at like in demand at the right time, I think that that would make them lean towards liking or engaging with posts as a means to reference rather than using collections.
We want to open it up for audience specific.
Could I just ask one more? I didn't catch that you had older people in your sample. So up to 64, were
Yes.
there many?
No, man. I think there were about 2 or 3 of them. Yeah.
Yeah, because I know my cohort uses social media a little differently than younger people. I'm just wondering if you look at it, if you looked at relationships with age, but if you don't have enough in the sample, that's not possible.
Yeah.
Audience questions.
First of all, Toyosi, I want to say you did amazing. I loved it. So what got you motivated to first start this project? Like, what was the moment where you were like, I want to sit down and really look at the data and the literature and then put it together? What was that aha moment for you?
So I think I started talking about that. I was talking with somebody who wanted to show me a post. He had seen it over the weekend and he had seen me on Monday and wanted to show me this post. And he spent like 30 minutes just searching. Just like, so he had saved the post. Interestingly, he had saved it, but he had it in just the giant pile. He hadn't tried to like regroup them into other collections. And he just spent such a long time looking and searching. And I was wondering why. So you can see them in this pile, but you didn't try to fix it, to try to sort them in like other folders. And I was talking about how I have more than 22 collections. And he was looking at me like, you've lost your mind. What do you mean you have 20? So I'm like, it just makes it easier for me. I know exactly where to find what I'm looking for. And I was just wondering why. And then I just started asking random people, do you have collections? Do you use collections? How many collections do you have? I have it in a giant pile. And then some people, I have 5. I have what? Oh, I have collections with 2 of my friends. And I was just wondering like what accounts for like that variance? What accounts for the differences? And that definitely just made me look into it. Thank you.
Very interesting. I like as someone who's maybe not as educated on like the research behind like personality tests and stuff. Like I know of like a bunch of different kinds. Like I know there's like Enneagram and all those other things. But what was maybe the rationale for picking that specific framework for this project?
Yeah, so the FFM, there are many personality profiles that exist. However, the FFM is the most studied personality trait. It has been validated many times. There are many studies that have validated it. A recent study that I saw actually even spoke about how studies have been done to validate it across different geographic locations, and they seem to come to that agreement. So it seemed like the most stable one to use, and that was why I leaned towards it. Sure.
I also think you're fantastic. What inspired you to choose to explore Instagram over other social medias that also allow you to save collections along that? I know you didn't explore other platforms, obviously. Do you think that any of these behaviors maybe could translate into other social platforms and amplify interactive collections?
Okay, I think that's a very good question. The first question, can you go the first question again? I'm still stuck on the second one.
Sorry. Why did you choose to explore
Instagram. Okay. I think it just I think I asked people about like other platforms. I would say, for example, X. On X, bookmarks are a premium feature. So I feel like that kind of affects the behavior around collections there. For TikTok, there were conversations around it getting banned, so I couldn't really dive into that. So Instagram just felt like and Facebook seems to have like a interesting demographic change right now. So I really didn't know how I was going to navigate that, and that made me choose Instagram. For your second question about how if the results might apply, I want to say maybe. I came across a study while doing my research that spoke about how different social media platforms have personalities. I felt like that was very interesting. So, like more extroverted, I feel like TikTok might be a more extroverted sort of platform. So, if that is the case, then I expect that the relationship with collections might be a little different. So I really don't know if that would be the case, but just going by the fact that social media platforms are said to have personalities, then I expect it to be different.
Really quickly, you want to talk about the implication of premium features?
Yes. So on X, collections are a premium feature. You can save posts, but if you're going to try to group them into collections, you have to pay for that. And considering that only conscientious individuals are grouping posts, it seems like you are locking out just one demographic or one user group, and every other group doesn't really care about it. So I feel like if collections are going to be a premium feature, I think it should be for more granular uses. For example, collaborative collections maybe can have a limit but should still be public. You can group your collections, but maybe for more granular categorization, like within your sports folders, you have tennis, you have basketball. Maybe that can be a premium feature. But just the idea of collections being a premium feature locks out one user group, and I don't think that that's particularly helpful.
Sure. So that'll be the last one.
You did amazing. Okay. But was there anything throughout your research process? Did you learn anything about yourself and your own social media habits that maybe you hadn't quite considered before?
That's a good question. I think it was just the angle. So I used to work in social media. I used to work in advertising, and it used to be like a common joke in my agency that when you work with social media, you fall into either the category of being chronically online or not wanting anything to do with social media. I felt like I had fallen into the group of not wanting anything to do with social media, but during the course of the research, I would say like I am conscientious. And then research has shown that conscientious individuals have an isolative use of social media. So I felt like maybe I'm just who I am, and it's not exactly my job that affected how I use social media. It was something that got me thinking, but yeah, that's it.
Thank you. All right, at this point, we'll ask the audience to leave. Thank you very much.
Dr. Fisher, I have something to say just before we
Yes.
leave. Yes. So just before we leave, I want us to please celebrate my committee. My idea was very vague when I started, and they believed in me and trusted the process. So if you could please put your hands together for my committee members. Thank you. Finally, I want us to also celebrate Dr. Holgraves. This is Dr. Holgraves' final semester before retirement. That is big. So if you could please put your hands together and celebrate him. That's it. Thank you so much.